Kolchak the Night Stalker will not be seen tonight so that we may bring you the following special program. Watch Kolchak the Night Stalker next week at its regularly scheduled time.
Look, I'll talk to you later. How did you get in here?
Excuse me, are you Mr. Phil Spector?
Look, it's been a real bad day. Would you come back in April?
Are you not looking for singers?
You'll have to make an appointment. Hello? No, you have to go to Nashville and bring the group back yourself. I'm telling you, it's the greatest group I ever heard in years. Of course you have to bring the mother with them. They're only 9 years old. What? Are you still here?
He wasn't the most friendly guy I've ever met. He tried to be friends, but then he had a guns on him, and he wouldn't let me out of his house for a couple days, and he wouldn't let. And then if he said if you want to play his pinball machine, he'd let you play it for a minute, and then he'd say, "Okay, everybody to another room." And I never met anyone like him.
The cannibal man living in today's jungle kills for his freedom. Discover his unique way of disposing of the bodies. A river of blood is created by the cannibal man.
Marcos.
Does this man discover the dark secrets of the cannibal man? The cannibal man soon comes to this theater.
Did
you get your presidential pardon yet? I hear they're giving them out.
Wrong.
No, it's not an admission of guilt necessarily. It's just it's more like a popularity thing.
I don't believe that I'm popular with the crowd who's currently handing out the pardons.
That's probably a good thing.
Which is fine with me. Absolutely.
We're recording this on the final day before the big regime change. So the president that we have now will not have by the time you listen to this.
No, I'm absolutely giddy.
Well, here's what I hear. I haven't seen any of the pardons yet, but apparently he's going to be going on a pardon palooza spree today. What I'm hearing is that he was offering them for $2 million. He's been selling them for $2 million. And now there's nothing in the Constitution that says he can't do that. Obviously, it's pretty scummy, but it's his prerogative apparently.
Supposedly, it's going through lobbyists who are collecting the money to get closer to him. Now, how that money is going to be split up, who knows? But he met with Jared and Ivanka all day Sunday to discuss their lists. But who knows? I did hear this morning Lil Wayne has been pardoned.
Oh, good, Lil Wayne. I'm old enough to remember when rappers were big and not Lil.
Well, he's Lil.
My day, they were big.
He's just Lil.
Now there's Lil.
He's what, 5'4"?
Good. What was his crime anyway? Just awful music?
Attempted murder?
Attempted murder, okay, yeah.
I want to say is what someone told me. I'm not really personally in the know. Not a big follower. After the whole, cough syrup, he got shot by hanging by the phone, blah blah blah. Not a big Lil Wayne person.
Not a big Lil Wayne. You know who I like? I just found. I sound like a freaking dad here, but I like that MF Doom. I just listened to that MF Doom, and it's pretty good. Sort of old school rap. He died a couple of weeks ago, I guess. That's probably why I thought to listen to him, but. Hey, who's looking for a pardon, who may or may not get it, is Joe Exotic. Joe Exotic apparently donated $10K before he found out that it was $2 million. So we don't know if he really met the buy-in there, but he's got a limo apparently waiting for him outside of prison right now because he's that confident.
Where did you hear the $2 million? Because I've heard people are giving $50,000 up front, and then if they find out they're going to get it, they'll give another $50,000. I mean, at this point, you can't hold out for $2 million.
No, I think $2 million was probably the initial price, and now everything must go. So they're having a clearance sale, I guess. I guess some people probably pay $2 million. Most people are probably pissed now because they could have waited. It's like buying a big screen TV before Black Friday sale.
Yes.
If Joe Exotic doesn't get pardoned, I mean, this is really his last chance, right? There's nobody else going to do it.
No one I could. No. How long is he supposed to be in?
Well, he's serving, I I guess the crime wasn't attempted murder. I guess it was a plotted murder. Well, he allegedly paid someone who was going to kill someone.
Conspiracy.
So I guess that's conspiracy. I think he's probably set to do 20-some years or so, or more. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't see how anybody could watch Tiger King. I watched Tiger King twice, and I don't see how anybody could watch it and think he's the hero, but apparently some people do. I mean, but that said...
Okay, take a moment and think about society today, and there's particular orange, not a tiger, but a particular orange being that many people think is a hero. So the standards for being a hero aren't real high in this day and age.
It could be as simple as just be entertaining. With Donald Trump, most of the country...
Or DJT. Don't give him his full name.
I'll edit his name out. But with this guy, most of the Americans, most of the people who voted for him know him as the apprentice guy, that persona that was created for his game show. And how you can look at that and see anything charming? I don't see it, but...
I'm for you. I'm here for the forgotten man. You've been overlooked for too long. I'm here to save you.
But he wasn't even pulling that shtick on the show. The Apprentice, not that I watched it, but from my understanding is his persona was the evil businessman.
Yeah.
And how does that translate into a populist message? I don't know.
When he started running. So no, he had the persona of this incredibly successful jet set life businessman, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to run for president and I'm going to save you. I think of you. I see you. I'm not actually going to do anything for you, but I'm going to keep telling you that I am. And as long as you don't notice that I'm not, then you just believe everything I say, then those poor, mean people. But he played the victim, and he played on their sense of victimhood. He would always, the other. You're not keeping yourself down. It's these people who are keeping you down. So don't be angry at me. Be angry at them. Blame somebody else. And as long as you're angry, as long as they're angry with somebody else, they're not paying that much attention to him. He just kept fueling that fire.
And I think that message got across so easily because he was well known, because of what they call the Q factor, the recognizability of someone. If it had been Ted Cruz or anybody, or any unknown person saying that same populist stuff, it probably wouldn't have taken hold because this was a celebrity. We see him on TV, therefore he can be trusted. I think people really, a certain type of person thinks that way. It's frightening. It's really frightening. But I think that might... Now, think back to when Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California. People forget that... Governor of California. I can't even say California the way he says it. I pronounce it correctly. California. He puts a couple of extra syllables in there. Whatever. God bless him. But people forget that when he ran, it was because... It was a runoff election because the incumbent didn't get enough votes. So at that point, because of California's interesting election rules or primary rules, basically everybody in the world was eligible to jump into the runoff, which, because it's California and because it's Hollywood, you had Gary Coleman in the race from Different Strokes. You had a couple of porn stars in the race.
Why not?
Yeah, I think maybe Bronson Pinchot from Perfect Strangers.
Love that show.
So Schwarzenegger wasn't even the front runner in that. He was just one of the lunatics. The story was, can you believe how wacky this race is? You got Gary Coleman against Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then he won. So, but people don't remember that. And my point being, he won because he was recognized. I don't think anybody really knew anything about his politics at the time. It was...
But he was also married to Maria Shriver, who was a Kennedy.
Uh-huh.
So you've got that whole Camelot association.
He probably had some doors open politically that wouldn't have opened otherwise. But I'm just talking pure voter, what motivates the voter to vote for him. And I think we probably will be stupid to underestimate that again in this particular... Let's say if Kanye West actually had run, the fact that he's recognizable, I think he would have gotten millions of votes, regardless of the policies. Just because he's recognizable. People are
think
stupid.
Nuts. People recognize that he truly is not altogether there most of the time. And I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, he does suffer from some legitimate issues that need attention paid to them. And had he gotten into a more stressful situation, that would not have been good for him. That would have been so detrimental to his health.
I just wonder who the next Trump is going, who the next one of these guys is going to be, and I've got a feeling they're probably going to come from the entertainment world, just because it seems like that's the big takeaway.
I think it's going to be a little Trump.
Well, we
Ivanka
need to...
seemed to have been the original heir apparent, who worked for Daddy the whole time. But then, as far as being loud and obnoxious, which isn't her thing, she fell behind Junior, and even Eric would pop up now and then. But now, all of a sudden, when it comes to attempting to be dignified, again, she's the one who's going to be at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's inauguration. She's going to be...
She's going?
Yes.
I wouldn't have invited her. Why would you want her there?
You know, you wonder if she was invited or she just said, oh, I would love to come, and they felt obligated. I don't know. What I've heard is that, yes, she will be there.
They probably have to pay catering based on how many people show up, so that's like an $85 plate, isn't it? I would just say thanks, but no thanks myself. I don't know. I don't see her slipping into the cult of personality. That I don't think it's the name necessarily. I think it is the recognition. I don't know. We'll see. In 4 years, I guess we'll see. But my prognostication is that the next one of these populist antichrists, if you will come from the entertainment world. Hercules, maybe. Kevin Sorbo. Someone like that.
Oh,
someone that people recognize. Oh, I know that guy.
Dean Cain.
Or Dean Cain, who used to be handsome at least.
Used to be something. On Faux News. When I've seen him on there, he doesn't speak very much. It's almost more like he's sitting there as part of the team as a name. You know, oh, look, here's this Hollywood actor. Not a big name, mind you, but played Superman, dated Brooke Shields for a long time. And now, here he is on our...
You're leaving off host of the $1 million Bigfoot hunt challenge, or whatever it was. Did you see that a few years ago? One of the most entertaining, quote-unquote, reality shows ever. He was the host, and they got like 4 teams together of Bigfoot hunters, and they all went into the woods. And they did sort of like Survivor-type challenges for each, because obviously they weren't really going to find Bigfoot. They knew that from the start. So to keep it entertaining, they had to do different challenges and things.
Yes.
And, lunatics. Just lunatics, every one of them.
I think after the disappointment of Al Capone's vault, I can't do these searching shows anymore.
Finding Bigfoot went like 9 seasons or 10 seasons or something, and you knew from the first episode they were not going to find Bigfoot.
No.
They really weren't even going to look for Bigfoot.
But all of these people whose homes they go to have sightings. Somehow it never gets on the video that they have outside their house. They have cameras here and there and everywhere, and they catch everything except Bigfoot. But they know because of the way this one post was bent. A human being couldn't do that, and they couldn't reach this. Then sit out there, sit in your house with your video camera all night long. Do what you got to do.
I'm fascinated by Bigfoot, by the sociological phenomenon that is Bigfoot.
Because he's real.
Speaking of handsome, is Armie Hammer a cannibal or what?
I just saw a headline. I have yet to have a chance to look at it. He cannot be.
Well, I'll set the stage. Apparently, an ex-girlfriend of his has released some, what she claims are direct messages from Armie from when they were in a relationship together. Now, he's married, but he's separated. I believe he has 2 kids. They are separated now. So she released these DMs, and mostly it's kind of like pillow talk kind of stuff. But at one point he says something like he wants to eat her. Again, it's like, we weren't there, I don't know. But at one point he says, I am 100% cannibal. And then he says, I have killed an animal and eaten it raw as the blood washed over my body. Something like that. Okay, I don't know. First of all, to me, the most important thing about all this is that we don't have any bloody right to know these direct messages.
No.
That, to me, is the bottom line. What goes on between 2 people should stay. Obviously, we live in a time when everything is forever. If you send a naked pic to a friend, it will always exist. It will be out there forever. So you should be aware of that. But if I send you a private message, not that we talk about cannibalism or anything, but if I send you a private message, I expect that it's going to be kept private.
Yes.
On the one hand. On the other hand, I wouldn't say anything. I would try not to say anything that I would feel more than embarrassed about if it came back to me. So
if it were intercepted and got it. Yes.
Yes, because that's always a possibility. That's how I look at it. I figure anything that I type or send could be intercepted by a third party, so I'm on my best behavior.
I would say she's looking for 15 minutes, and why would she choose it now? There was a time when his name was bigger.
Well, it seems to have worked because it went as far as he has made public kind of apologies. he sort of didn't. It's one of those non-apologies that you get from people when it's more about that people are talking about it. He also, I think, they dropped. He was going to do some movie with Jennifer Lopez. They dropped him from it. Yeah. So I don't know. It probably will blow over, but it's just, to me, it's
weird.
It's an interesting story because I did a little bit of a dive into this, and there's a small subculture of people who do this.
Eating an animal is not cannibalism.
No, I think he was just saying that he loves that feeling, and that he was. I think that's what he was getting at. He says something about wanting to rip her. He said it more poetically than I'll say it, but something about ripping her heart out and eating it or something like that. Okay, whatever. Not my kink. Not into it.
No.
But bottom line is, to me, it's a little like a few years ago when wrestler Hulk Hogan,
yes,
a phone message, an answering machine message that he left on his daughter's machine surfaced. And it was ugly, and it was awful, and it was racist. He was apparently angry that she was dating a black guy. And he says some really awful things. He says the N-word. Okay, bottom line again to me is we have no right to hear that conversation. Now that we know it, we can't unknow it.
Who put it out?
I think his daughter did. It was a message that was left on her machine. So really nobody but the two of them had any business releasing it to the public. But now that it's out there, we know about it, so you can't not know about it.
Well,
it's just not fair.
All those messages that Alec Baldwin had left his daughter Ireland all those years ago.
Right.
When he was unhappy, we'll say. The one thing about that we do and we don't, but if that's who they really are, with all the adulation and all the money that they're making because they have created this public persona, perhaps we do have the right to know who they are. By those means, maybe not.
I think when it comes down to consenting adults, that's kind of, I just automatically draw the line there. The ex-girlfriend isn't alleging that he did anything illegal. She's not implicating him in any crime. Basically, I used to go out with this guy, and he's a weirdo, and now, for whatever reason, I want the world to know that he's a weirdo.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's no criminal implication with any of these things. But if they are not the sweet, charming, positive, I love everybody people that they portray themselves to be, do we have a right to know who they really are? And everybody's got not a darker side, but everybody says something at some time that they regret. You learn a little older as you get older, hopefully, and you use your filter more often. But I'm sure you've said something.
No. Take that back.
Nope.
I've said something I would like to get a pardon for my Elliot Page rant. If the president's giving out those pardons, that would be a nice little bonus. But no, I've said things that I wouldn't want to come. Well, I try to speak in a way and behave in a way that if anything were to come back to me, I would at least be able to explain it. That's how I kind of try to live my life. I do not speak ill of other people behind their backs. If I were to say something about someone, it would be the same thing I would say to them to their face, because I'm good.
I developed a thing, well, you can either talk to me or talk about me, but you don't get to do both.
Thank you. Exactly. And again, with this particular situation, I don't know that it's our business. I mean, Armie Hammer is an actor, and that's all he is. That's all he is asking us to accept him as. And for that, I don't know. I've always been able to, or try to, separate the art from the artist. So I can watch old clips of OJ breaking tackles, and it's wonderful, but I'm not really wild about the murders, and I can keep those things separate. So it gets more complicated, I think. Certainly if it's a politician and they're making decisions that'll affect us, it is our right, I think, to know if they're paying rent boys out of a Senate slush fund to quiet them. Yeah, we should know that. We should definitely know that.
You mean like the wrestlers and Jim Jordan?
Yes, we should know that. We should absolutely know that. Now, Armie Hammer, if he's doing something illegal, we should know that. But if he's a kinky guy and he enjoys something, and it's not hurting anybody who doesn't want to be hurt, I don't think we have the right to know it. We do know it. Unfortunately, you can't pretend you don't know it. So now we know that he might be a cannibal.
That is not cannibalism.
Well, no, he says in the text, I am 100% cannibal. That's what he's saying. The animal thing was just an example of how he's so into blood, I think. Who knows? He probably was just, who knows? Maybe the whole thing's a joke. We don't know what their relationship was like. We don't know what kind of a shorthand they spoke in. We don't know.
No.
Is it important?
Oh, did you hear about, okay, they're vetting the National Guard.
Yes.
That there are members of extreme alt-right groups who have been watching them, kind of trying to get the manners going on and now trying to infiltrate.
I read that they've kicked out 2 people already. 2 of the guardsmen.
12, but they're saying that
12.
it's not because of any extreme political views necessarily, but because of things they've said or done in the past. And the guard members themselves, from what I understand, are like, let's clean up shop. But these guys are trying to, names of groups that I don't feel like saying, are trying to infiltrate so that they can actually get in and be on guard duty.
Right.
So that they can, I don't even want to say.
Their plan is to assassinate people. That was their plan on the 6th. That's their plan now. I don't think it shouldn't be a secret. That's their plan. Don't we have I hate to say mutual friend, a mutual former friend who's in the National Guard, who's an alt-right person? Both of us have blocked this person on Facebook. Am I confusing the National Guard with something else?
I keep looking, like on the Washington video.
For faces you recognize?
Yeah.
Am I confusing the National Guard with the reserves? Is the reserves something different?
He's a reservist.
This person is one of those.
You're a reservist in the National Guard.
Echoing again. So it is the people who one weekend a month they get together and pretend that they're army men. Is that what it is?
In 1 month, someone. Yeah, but these folks go into war, so there's no pretending these days.
No, I see the National Guard are stationed in Port Authority almost year round. Port Authority is one of the hubs where I'm currently staying. To get in and out of Manhattan, I have to go through Port Authority. So I see these guys all the time. They're dressed in their camos and they've got their machine guns and they're just standing there. And I walk by them and I hear this 2 18-year-olds talking to each other, and it's kind of terrifying because these guys have all this tactical gear and literally machine guns, and they sound like 18-year-olds because they are. Yeah, and didn't they also discover that a lot of the Capitol Police were hanging out in a lounge room? I think I read that today.
The head was down with Mike Pence. Now, I'm sure he would try to say that he was guarding him, but I think he was just trying to keep himself out of the fray, as he was part of the deal, and that's just such a mess. And so many of the Capitol Police are coming out and telling their stories, and how it had not been relayed to them what was going to happen, necessarily what was going on, and that it could get that extreme. I mean, they were ambushed.
The good thing is that there were 1 million cameras there, so everybody, I don't think anybody will be able to escape this, the people who were inside the Capitol. Not to mention the cell phones, and the geniuses were live streaming, so it's all,
Have you seen any of the interviews with the people who are regretful? They didn't understand. They thought they were doing the right thing.
It's too bad.
Oh, such remorse.
They'll have a lot of time to think about that decision.
Depends on if they get pardoned. And I wonder if they think, in a way, if I come forward and tell my story and I was swayed by this propaganda, I no longer believe it, I see the truth now, if that's going to work on their favor, and then they won't be convicted, charged with anything.
Well, today's the last day that he can issue out pardons, so I guess we'll know by the end of the day, won't we? I do.
Red carpet. He wants a red carpet rolled out.
Sure. I do kind of doubt that he'll give a blanket pardon for everybody who was in the Capitol. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. He could certainly...
opinion on that is, if he does that, considering all the danger that the senators, regardless of party, were in, that could work against him critically in the impeachment.
Yes, whether he's aware of that or thinks that way, or he's capable of thinking that way, I don't even know. I think it's gimme, gimme, gimme. What helps me right now? And that's the decision. So if he feels like throwing his supporters a bone, which will ensure in 4 years whatever, then he'll do it. But I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see who gets pardoned.
That they wait even a couple of weeks to start the hearings in the Senate. Let Biden get let this new administration get some good stuff done. Let it really sink in what happened, and then do it. Don't push it so hard that it seems like we've got to get this done today, because then it does seem more like this is the focus more than then what do we need to do today? Get it within the first month or so, but get some things done first. And Biden invited McConnell and McCarthy to church with him tomorrow, and they have both agreed to attend.
I don't feel good about that, frankly. Sorry, I don't. McConnell doesn't deserve any bones, and this to me is the first step in letting the nation heal. And nothing will make me angrier than hearing that. So,
the accountability.
McConnell should be ostracized.
Those two used to work together reasonably well, and at this point, we've got them both. But it's also, if you think about it, such a major slap in the face to you-know-who, to the orange being, who professed faith in religion but never went to church and is on video saying that he has never repented. He has never asked for absolution. He doesn't know why he would. So now all of a sudden to have a true Christian in the Oval Office who invites these evil naysayers to maybe go get a little religion. And they say, yep. Now, whether they want to go, honestly, or they are going to kind of suck up, I think we know the answer. But maybe they'll learn something while they're there.
Well, I think it's an unnecessary first step in rehabilitating Mitch McConnell's image, and we shouldn't give him that first step. They're going to pivot. We knew this from the beginning. They're going to pivot once Trump is no longer useful to them, which is, unfortunately, right now. They had to wait till the last day. They're going to pivot away from him, and it's going to be, oh, he was a bad man. He was bad. No. You did it. They all did it. He was their cover. McConnell's the one who rushed Amy Coney Barrett.
Oh, yeah.
So, no. I would not invite him to church. I wouldn't invite him to anything. I wouldn't speak to him for the next 4 years. I would say publicly,
he has to.
You know what, Mitch? I'm not going to speak to you for the next 4 years.
He has to. That would only work against
Does he?
himself to do so.
Does he have to speak to the Senate Minority Leader, the president?
Yes. To get any type of legislation through, you got to work with the other people. You just do.
Can it go through the leader, though? Can it go through the majority leader?
And he will. But considering they're 50-50, you've got to have people from the other party. And I think the goal is to try and get rid of so much us-them.
Well, I'm afraid you can't do that. That's the bully crying when you finally slap back. And
you can't.
We don't erase all the bullying just because you get slapped once.
Remember, keep your friends close. What's the other part of that?
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with that, but
I do and I don't. But the thing is, I'm not saying you walk in and there's absolution thrown for all of them, but you can't. If you walk in with the whole hateful thing, you're doing the same thing as the orange being. Perhaps not as vocally, but you're doing the same thing, and the only people who will suffer will be us.
See, I tend to think the opposite, because I think if you create a both sides narrative by doing that, there aren't two sides. There's been a side that has committed traitorous acts on this country, and then you have the Democrats. And I think that needs to be the narrative, not, well, there's two sides and we need to work together, and well, we really have more in common than we... No, that is not how it's going to work. We're going to go right back to where we were when Obama was finishing up, and it's a horrible place to be. Prove me wrong, Joe, but I don't see it. He's given every indication that he's going to. So many
people know the game that they played before. I don't think they'll be able to play it as well this time around. And I'm not saying you go in all kinds of kumbaya by any means. And you don't. I know maybe you didn't mean it. You were doing what you thought you needed to do to get what you wanted pushed through. I get it. So everything's all good. I don't think that's going to happen, nor should it. But you can't sit there and throw sand the whole time either. Sometimes you got to jump out of the sandbox and play like a big boy.
To me, what that means is establishing the narrative and showing the country and showing the world what really happened, and punishing those people, whether it's McConnell or any. We know McConnell's done stuff. We just know that. We know there's insider trading, at least. At the very least, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Throw them in jail. Don't offer them an olive branch. Throw them in jail. Prosecute every single one of them, and show the world that this is America. That the America that we pretend exists can actually exist. That's what I would do. That's how I would pull up my big boy pants if I was Biden.
How do you know that that's not all in the works?
We don't know, and I hope that is the case.
What he has said is that he's not going to put his focus on that. Mm-hmm. He's putting his focus on getting us back in the Paris Climate Accord, working on immigration, working on deferments or canceling payments, not canceling, but putting off student loan payments and evictions. And he has said multiple times, I will let the Department of Defense handle those things. That's their job. They will work independently. And so you know that all that's going to go on, but it's not his place to talk about it. He wants those to be independent as they're supposed to be, as they used to be.
I think he could also send a message, though. I mean, just through words. It's one thing to say, I mean, again, I don't know exactly what he said, so maybe he did say this, but what I would say is, I'm not going to be involved in the prosecution of these people. I trust in my Department of Justice. I trust in the people that I'm appointing to these positions. I trust that they will prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law. So that way, he's saying, it's not me, but he's also saying this is very serious. Now, I can see it going the other way, and him saying,
said that they are responsible and things need to be handled, but it won't be me.
Good. Then I hope that's the case. I sincerely hope that's the case. And I guess after tomorrow, we'll probably start knowing.
Well, plus, you also have Nancy Pelosi being so upfront and speaking. And Chuck Schumer will. Adam Schiff has spoken. You don't need everyone all the time, or it does just start to seem... But to the people who are still in his fan club, cultists, see, they are just picking on him. They're just picking on him. And it can't seem that...
Well, I don't know if, at this point, we need to even, pardon the expression, give a shit about what Trump fanatics feel. They're going to lie and mischaracterize things anyway, so who cares, really? They will lie and call Joe Biden a socialist. It doesn't matter what he is. That is their narrative no matter what. So even taking that into account...
Some will come to their senses. Will the absolute fanatics? No.
Yeah, but I think we just ignore them. Just ignore them.
You mean like the people who charge the Capitol? You can't ignore them.
Ignore...
Aware of what they're going to do, what they're thinking. You don't coddle them, but you've got to be aware of them.
Being aware of them doesn't mean legitimizing their beliefs or their statements. I think you could easily we can just pretend like QAnon, well, we don't have to pretend. QAnon is stupid. I mean, it's just nuts. We don't have to acknowledge that there are millions of people who believe this, therefore there must be something to it. No, it's just nuts. Keep the narrative that it's nuts, and if you believe it, you're nuts.
I don't think anyone's saying otherwise.
Well, I
don't think you're picking up what I'm laying down.
Okay. I apologize if that's the case. We know how specific wording of headlines can change people's attitudes toward a story. It's that simple. If the headline is, Trump claims election fraud with scant evidence, that is a wrong headline. Zero evidence is not the same as scant evidence. When you say there is scant evidence, you're saying there is evidence. So people can take from that, there's some evidence. The correct answer is no evidence. So one word subtly changes the way people perceive. And let's face it, most people read headlines, they don't read the full story. So the headline is what they will absorb. So when people say, there's scant evidence to point to election fraud, that becomes the story. The narrative has shifted to, there's some, and it's always been zero. It's never been more than zero.
Here's the twist on that. There are the people, and there was just a protester outside Michigan saying that he will believe that Biden won the election, but we have to address their concerns and show them the proof that he won. Well, no, we don't. The thing is, there isn't proof. Or as far as you want to say, they've been saying that there's been this widespread voter fraud, and the courts keep saying there isn't. The attorneys, nobody can find any. Well, there's your proof. I can't show you proof of something that doesn't exist. Here's all the records saying that this doesn't exist, but I can't create something from the other side of that coin.
You can't prove a negative. You can't prove that Bigfoot doesn't exist. You can't prove something didn't happen. But that isn't the point. That's shifting the responsibility away from the person who's making the claim. If you claim that you have seen Bigfoot, that's your claim. I'm going to stand neutral on that until you show me some evidence.
That's the point. If you can confuse them long enough by saying it's here, well, we can't show you that it's here. Or we can take a video and alter it so that it looks like at the end of, or in the middle of the night, they put these tubs of ballots under the table. They snuck them in, when in reality, the election commissioner said, no, those were put in at the end of a shift. Those have been there the whole time. They're creating this terrible and false reality to get people to believe something that isn't true. But the people who want to believe it, it doesn't matter how close to reality it is, or the degree of fabrication, level of fabrication.
I mean, it works, I think, similar to the way a religion works when it begins, is that it isn't evidence gathering that brings you to a conclusion. It's you have a conclusion, and that is infallible. Therefore, everything surrounding that has to bend to that conclusion. And that's what the Trump cultists predicament, that's the predicament they're in right now, is that they've lied and lied and lied so far. They've created this narrative where the quote-unquote truth has to be so ridiculously easily disproven that the lies have to keep getting bigger and bigger in order to preserve that core value they have, which is that the election was stolen.
Yeah.
Since there is literally no evidence to support that, then they have to create other evidence, quote-unquote evidence, to support it, which doesn't exist. And again, it keeps coming back to the media with me. If the media was, and I'm talking corporate media, CNN, etc., if they were honest about this and presented it as such, I think millions of these people wouldn't have been attracted to this. You've got the hardcore people who are just lunatics, who believe the QAnon stuff anyway. But then you've got a lot of people, you and I know them, people from where we grew up. They're not necessarily bad people. They're good people. But they can be easily swayed if all the information they're hearing is coming from one direction. They're going to have a false narrative. And I can't do anything about that. CNN can do something about that and should be doing something about it.
I watch MSNBC, where they will tell you if it doesn't matter what side you're standing on. If you make a mistake, you've made a mistake, and they will say so. When someone brought up this morning, there's going to be, maybe 200 people at the inaugural, and they are all socially distanced. You see the chairs, and they're not even right behind each other in the rows. They're completely staggered, and the band is all spaced out, and then they have plexiglass between each row. But one of the hosts was saying this morning, if that's Trump throwing this, would they accuse him of hosting a super spreading event? So they will look at things from both sides, even though everybody will have to wear a mask and a distance. So they'll call anybody out.
I heard that Garth Brooks is playing the inauguration. Did you hear that?
No.
You like Garth Brooks, don't you?
Very much so.
Yeah, he's, I can't remember who else. There was a list of like 4. Oh, Lady Gaga.
Jennifer Lopez. John Legend.
There you go.
Wonderful.
No Kid Rock. No Ted Nugent. No Nuge. No My Pillow guy.
Is that not just... And then the joke... with My Pillow guy. If you have seen any of the video at all, his shirt's not even tucked in the back. They'll zoom in on his notes, which are ridiculous. But yeah, there's his shirt hanging out. It's like, dude, you're going to the White House. Take a second. Tuck. There are how many people that have just stopped buying his products?
Oh, the pillows?
Well, and he has linens and mattress topper. But see, now I'm advertising. So
well, I heard that the big stores have stopped selling his stuff, like Bed Bath & Beyond and Kohl's, maybe somebody else. They've already severed ties with the guy, so.
See ya.
Bye-bye. I hear they're awful pillows in the first place. I don't have one myself, but I hear they're made with, you know what they're stuffed with? You know,
well, chunks of foam.
Chunks of foam rubber, right. So what they do is it's a secondary market. It's like the little bits and pieces that when they cut foam mattresses, the little chunks, the little end pieces get recycled, and he buys them in bulk, and he makes his shitty pillows with them.
Right there.
There you go. Oh, you got one?
My mother had purchased them one for herself and one for Dad, and one of them didn't like theirs, and so she's like, yeah, try it. For about 2 nights, it seemed great. One of my sisters has this gel pillow, and it stays cool the whole time. And the thing is, with long hair, your pillow gets hot. You know, you got this whole thing, so I got to find the kind like she has.
Do they call it Memory Soft? Like where it forms to your head or something? I don't know.
Then there's that new one out that looks very interesting, but if you lay on your back, it faces one direction. But then if you sleep on your side, you have to spin it. So the part, when you're sleeping on your back, the part that's at the base of your neck is one way, but if you want to sleep on your side, then you turn it so the part was at the base of your neck is now at the top, so you can put your arm in the side.
I'm thinking we could do like a whole special episode on pillows. You know, like a side project, just like an hour of pillow talk. Hey, we'll call it Pillow Talk. What do you think about that?
I think that's been taken.
Oh, yeah? All right.
I do have a very nice Ralph Lauren pillow. Actually, I gave one to my son, and then my dog has the other one. It's very nice, and he really enjoys the pillow.
Well, if you don't have any other pillow facts, then I would move on if you don't mind. Is
Yeah.
there any other pillow?
Spent on the pillows.
Okay. Good.
That's-
If you think of something, that you left out, just drop it back in there.
I'm not even sure that anything I said about pillows really has much value.
You never know. See, you never know who. We don't know who our audience is, really. We're still figuring this out. So, we might have somebody who's just looking for pillow talk, and they found us. But I've been watching a lot of documentaries because I guess we're getting towards Academy Award time, so I'm trying to... Have you seen Crip Camp? Now playing on Netflix?
No.
It's called Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution, and it's about this summer camp in the early 70s that was started for kids, I guess, with disabilities. And it became like this life-changing kid. I didn't go to summer camp myself. I don't know if you did, but I only know it from the TV and from the movies and stuff. So my understanding is that it can be a pretty important time in kids' lives. So kids with disabilities didn't have any place to go like this until this place started. But it's really heartfelt, not too sentimental. I mean, I was crying like a baby, but that's me. I cry at Thor. So yeah,
Thor.
I know, right? No, I'm saying crying, not sighing wistfully.
Yeah.
Like you do. I'm talking.
I cry when the movie's over as well.
Okay. Well, this is life affirming. If you want to use that word. But we follow them because this takes place in the early 70s, so we see them now, and some of them became the people who pushed the American with Disabilities Act through. I mean, these were
The ADA. Wow.
the ADA, yeah. So some of these people who were in this particular program became super political. It's really, really fascinating, though, because
I shall have to watch.
people with disabilities are ostracized. I mean, that's just a fact. And even the people who don't ostracize them kind of condescend to them, treat them like children almost. And these, I think one of the things that comes out in this movie is that these are horny teenagers like anybody else. Yeah, some of them are in wheelchairs. Some of them have disabilities that are really pronounced. Okay, some of them don't. And there's also a hierarchy, apparently, which I found kind of amusing, is because any group of people are going to have a hierarchy. You just have to. It's like sociologically. So in this milieu, at the top of the food chain were what they call the polios, because these were people who their disabilities might not be as pronounced or obvious, and
Just
could
don't
probably
give away too much.
I'm not giving away too much at all. But then at the bottom of that hierarchy is the CPs, the people who have more pronounced physical disabilities. And it's just really interesting to watch that play out because it's a great film. I really, really recommend it. Crip Camp, now playing on Netflix. And also on Netflix, a totally other side of the spectrum, is a documentary series on the Night Stalker. Do you remember the Night Stalker serial killer?
Richard Ramirez.
Yes. And I don't know how you are with serial killers, or if it's something that interests you in any way, shape, or form. But this one it follows the two cops who solve the crime. So it's got a different, for me, it's got a different viewpoint than your typical, isn't this creepy serial killer documentary. So we're really following their story. Really good. It's 4 parts, 4 45-minute parts. And we really hardly even hear from Richard at all. We hear a little bit. So the focus isn't on him. It's more on the victims, too, which is something that we really should spend more time on. The serial killer, the murderer, gets to be a celebrity. Everybody knows his name, but the victims are just the victims.
They become infamous. There's a channel, a station I watch quite a bit, and of course now they've got their own streaming channel. So for X amount extra per month, you can watch these shows. And a lot of them are the same shows that have been on the regular channel, but one of them that's a 4-part series, they go into what is supposed to be the most haunted hotel in the United States. And Richard Ramirez stayed there during his spree.
Okay.
And so some guy goes into the room where he stayed and they're talking to him. And apparently the one guy goes, "Oh, yeah, he's here in the room. Yeah," he said, "You got me," for whatever that means. Will I watch it? No, because it's on that channel where I pay more every month. Pay more on top of your exorbitant cable fees already.
One of the things with Ramirez that is really, really odd and creepy and kind of ties into what I was talking about, the cult of celebrity, is that Ramirez had groupies when he was in prison. Did you know this? He had literal groupies, women. There were several of them. It wasn't just one, who would show up in court. And if you look at the video, these look like normal people. They're actually, dare I say it, pretty women. They look normal. And they were obsessed with Richard Ramirez. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about what he did because it's one of the most heinous serial killers. He was indiscriminate as far as age and gender of his victims. He was just awful, awful, awful. And these women wanted to be with him. And
Yes.
how do you, that psychology, where does that?
It's a very, very strange phenomenon. And he's not the only one. There is a whole field of study. I won't say field of study, but there has been for years an incredible amount of research that has been done on trying to figure out the psychology behind this. And if there's a silly show to a much lesser degree, Love After Lockup, where it's nobody's a murderer, but where these men and women will begin relationships. And they send money and this and that, and then it's supposed to be, or I should say, and whatnot. When the individual is out of prison, of course, this pen pal relationship person goes to pick them up, and they have this wonderful idea that they're just going to ride off into the sunset and get married and have this wonderful life. Well, you're dealing with somebody who has been in prison for years. You're probably not the only individual who has been writing to them and sending money. And you think that they're just going to pop out and all of a sudden say, "You're right, let's get married. I've been in a cage for years and years. Now let me just pop into another one."
Totally ignoring what put them in the prison in the first place, too, which in this case was multiple heinous murders.
Well, in those cases, these guys, it could be anything. But they want to go out and drink and have relationships, and then they're shocked when the person goes out and drinks when they're not supposed to, or perhaps cheats on them. You haven't been paying much attention.
Ramirez got married in prison by one of these groupies, and for what it's worth, because he was on death row, there were no conjugal visits. So, yes, he got married to her, but that was it. She left as soon as they got married, and he went back to his cell, and I don't know.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then do you walk around the neighborhood with a whole lot of pride? I just got married. Oh, really? Where's your husband? Well, what's his name? Richard. You might have heard of him. I don't know. I think
with a knife.
I think that might get you ostracized. That would not be anybody I would invite over for wine anymore. Thinking if that type of person fascinates you to the degree that you want to marry them, you perhaps are not the type of person that I want in my home.
Creepy as all get out.
I would say creepy as pause.
Creepy AF, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Crazy kids. We've kind of taken a dark turn, haven't we now?
We have. One thing we didn't talk about yet is Phil Spector died this week.
COVID.
Speaking of murderers. He died of COVID, yeah. Here's a guy that you really kind of have to separate the art from the artist because he was a real awful person. Not even just the murder, which was, they were at a party, I guess, and he shot her point blank in the face and then pretended that she had grabbed his gun and did it herself or whatever. But he also allegedly pulled a gun on John Lennon when they were recording. He also allegedly pulled a gun on the Ramones when they were recording. He liked guns. He just liked guns, and he was a bit of a control freak. At
some point, regardless of the level of his talent, wouldn't you think somebody would say, thanks but no thanks? We've learned enough.
You'd think,
not worth it.
He was so well known as the producer people wanted to work with that I think the little gun thing kind of wasn't that big. You could kind of overlook it a little bit. But his worst crime, well, I shouldn't say that. Obviously, he murdered somebody, but his second worst crime, I think, is what he did to Let It Be. He produced the Let It Be album, which, of course, is a classic, but let's be honest, he, I think, messed it up more than he helped it. He added strings to Long and Winding Road. He left off John Lennon's best song, Don't Let Me Down, because he didn't think it was appropriate for the record, and instead put a couple of, whatever. If you're interested, look it up. It's all there. They did release a version, I think, just a few years ago called The Naked Let It Be, or The Unstripped, or whatever, with the original arrangements before Phil got
I don't know, so I can't say anything on that.
Wasn't there I think there was like an HBO movie about the trial where Al Pacino played him? you remember that from a few years ago? Pacino played
There was.
Spectre.
I remember hearing ads about something, but that's it. I don't know any of the skinny.
Well, I mean, the guy created some. He was responsible for what they call the Wall of Sound,
Yes.
which was groundbreaking and influenced a lot of people, and people still listen to that stuff. But took a wrong turn, got into the guns and paranoia, which not always a good mix.
You know what they say about paranoia? It will destroy you.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that bit. I thought you were going with what do you mean they're talking about paranoia?
We were in the
We're going with
musical
Kinks instead.
thing. Yeah. Just
I saw the Kinks in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Really?
On their Come Dancing tour when everyone saw it. I also spoke to Ray.
Everyone.
Ray was at one of our Housing Works parties, one of the New Yorker parties, I should say, in my bookstore. Ray was there. That's a good story. That's a scintillating story.
I still think you need to get the bookstore back.
The bookstore is still there, and it's a whole different thing now. They have
I
they
know.
just went union. In fact, I just read Housing Works. They just unionized, which is good for them. Yeah, there wouldn't have been any need for it back when we were in charge because we were nice to people. We paid everybody well, we treated everybody well.
I still think you should get it back.
I think that's one of those ships that sailed.
Yeah, you had your glory days with it. Now it's someone else's turn.
Yeah, I think of my life in chapters, different lives or whatever, and I feel like that was a chapter that was very important, but there's no going back to that. I mean, part of what was important is us against the world, which you can't just recreate.
No, huh?
What haven't we talked about? We talked about Phil Spector. We talked about Armie Hammer, of course. So, by the time people listen to this, insurrectionists could have taken over. We don't know. Well, that's if everything goes well, but according to plan. But, they do have something big planned. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. I will admit, there's a particular restaurant in town that I do enjoy the food, and I hadn't had food from there in some time, and how all those things were supposed to start at state capitals on Sunday, and I have to drive in proximity to the Capitol.
Oh.
So I ordered my food, went and picked it up, kind of made my way. Not a soul. They had, gosh darn it, little barricades that were ready, if need be, that they could put out to block off the street. There was not, and this was 1 o'clock, 1:30, no. Yeah, 1:30, close. So they should have been there.
That was on
it was after
17th?
2. It was on Sunday. Yes, it was shortly after 2. So people should have been there. Not a soul. Well, they're saying that in no place that they had planned has it amounted really to anything.
Well, they still, the 20th, which will be tomorrow,
yes,
is when there is something planned online. I mean, they've been planning that. The 17th was a rumor because Q is the 17th letter in the alphabet, so people were saying they're going to use that date, but it wasn't. I don't think it was an official.
No, Michigan had some folks, and some of the other states, but just not the turnout. It'll be interesting tomorrow.
It will.
But I think this getting on Air Force One tomorrow at 8 to fly to Marine One to Andrews. Got to get on there at 8 so you can get out, fly down to Mar-a-Lago. Somewhere along the line, he wants a red carpet, military band, 21-gun salute, which, as Commander-in-Chief, he gets to make the decision as to whether he does get such a send-off, so he will.
I thought they said no. Didn't they? Didn't the already say no?
I had heard no, but then someone else today had said he may, if that's what he really wants. But the plane has to be back by noon. Every report I've heard is he's got to be off by noon. Off. Well, and I think the Bidens don't need a tour of the White House. They don't. But this absolute immaturity of I'm flying out early, none of the consideration, even Melania with the tea, where the first lady takes the other one up for tea and they chit-chat. And after the whole birtherism BS that he put Obama through and all the stuff that they would say about Michelle, and they were still very gracious. They kept showing this video how, who gets out and walks up, and she had to come around the vehicle, Melania, and she's got a big blue box, looks like Tiffany's, but he didn't wait for her. He didn't turn. He just starts walking up the steps for the greeting, and then she kind of shows up behind, and you can tell she's uncomfortable. She's not sure what to do. And so she hands the box over. Michelle Obama takes it, and then you can see she's not sure what to do with it in her hands. And then the Orange Goblin just starts walking in, and it's Barack on one side and Michelle on the other of Melania with their arms kind of behind her, welcoming her in too. It's just like, well, that doesn't tell you everything.
Yeah. What's in the box?
We don't
a gift.
know.
What's in the box?
I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find out.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
è ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਆਸ਼ਾ ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਸੁੱਖ ਸਬੇਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦਿਨ ਰਾਤ ਮਨਾਉਂਦੀ ਏ ਕਿਮਰ ਕਰਕੇ There's dancing behind movie scenes, behind the movie scenes. promotion of the simple life and the dams they're building. Brim full of Asher on the 45. Well, it's a brim full of Asher on the 45. Brim full of Asher on the 45. Well, it's a brim full of Asher on the 45. Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom. Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom. Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom. Mine's on the 45. Mohammed Rafi, 45. Lata Mangeshkar, 45. Solid State Radio, 45. Ferguson Mono, 45. Bon Public, 45. Jack Dutronc and the Bowling Boogie, the heavy hitters and the Chi-Chi music, all in your radio, 45. 2-in-1s, 45. Argo Records, 45. Trojan Records, 45. Brim full of Asher on the 45. Well, it's a brim full of Asher on the 45. Brim full of Asher on the 45. Well, it's a brim full of Asher on the 45. Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom. Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom. Everybody needs a bosom for a pillow. Everybody needs a bosom. Mine's on the 45. 77,000 piece.